What's up, Joel? So we are going to officially learn about the zero product property and how we solve equations using it. And so that's kind of our goal today. If you have any questions, let me know. After this, you can go ahead and start your activity. So zero product property, here's what it is. So if we have A times B equals 0, and then all we do from here is that we pull out our A instead of equal to 0, and we pull out our B instead of equal to 0. And so, or both A and B equal to 0. And so in reality, you're just kind of imagining that A is a chunk of your equation times another chunk of your equation. You're going to set both of those pieces equal to 0 and solve. And so if we have an example here, x plus 3 times x minus 5 equals 0, again, we have that multiplication piece. X plus 3 would be our A, x minus 5 would be our B. We pull both those out and we set them equal to 0. And we just solve. So subtract 3 and then add 5. So your answers will be -3 and 5. And so that's in reality, that's the gist of the zero product property. Okay, so our final answer would be -3, 5. But we have many scenarios that we could look at. So again, we have this scenario here, 2a plus 4 times a plus 7 equals 0. Again, we just set those both equal to 0 and solve. So this one, you're going to subtract 4 and then divide by 2, so -2, and then subtract 7, so -7. So you have your answers, and that's all you do. Again, here's another example. Set these two equal to 0. Subtract 5 and then divide by 3, add 3. So those are your final answers there. Why don't you go ahead and pause the video and see if you can do this one on your own. But again, you're going to, set these equals to 0, add 3, so y equals 3. Subtract 6 and divide by 2, so -3. So you have your answers like so. So 4 steps of solving a quadratic equation. Step 1, set the equation is equal to 0. Factor the equation. Set each part equal to 0 and solve. And then check your answers on the calculator. So we can always check our answers, right? If we know what x is, we can go ahead and solve. But the biggest thing is that you have to make sure you set your equations equal to 0. So if you have something on the right side, you have to bring it over to the other side so it equals 0. So I'm going to show you some examples of what that looks like. So let's say we have something like this, x squared minus 11x equals 0, right? We don't have any x squared. So what we need to do is we need to pull out that greatest common factor, which is in fact x. So now we have x times x minus 11. And because now we have two pieces, we can set x equals to 0 and x minus 11 equal to 0 and solve. So x is 0, and then if we add 11, x is going to be 0 and 11, and you have your answers. Okay. We always have to make sure we set our equations equal to 0, and we also need to make sure that we have the correct A times B scenario as well. So let's say we're looking at something like this, okay? -24a plus 144 equals -a squared. So again, the first thing we have to do is bring that -a squared onto the other side. So add a squared on both sides. So now we're here, a squared minus 24a plus 144 equals 0. And so because we don't have two separate pieces, we don't have our A times our B, we need to make that. And what we can do is we can think about separating these into two separate pieces, right? A minus 12 squared is the same idea as a squared minus 24a plus 144, right? And we could actually prove this by doing a minus 12 times a minus 12 and do our FOIL process to see that it should come out as the same scenario. So now, because a minus 12 equals 0 and a minus 12 equals 0 is going to give us the same answer, we're actually only going to do it once because we know that they're both going to give us the same answer. Add 12 on both sides, so we only have one answer for this scenario, and a is equal to 12. Again, we have something like this, 4m squared plus 25 equals 20m. We have to bring that 20m on the other side by subtracting 20m. From here, we can either look for a least common factor or greatest common factor and pull that out, which I am seeing one. Or we can set it up where we have something like this. Sorry, I'm not seeing one. If that 25 was different, we would have one, but we don't. So we set it up like this. So 2m minus 5 squared. If you're not sure exactly how I got to this scenario, this piece here, Joel, all I did was I just did the opposite of FOIL, right? So I just kind of did the opposite of what I would do for FOIL, pulled those pieces out. So I have something like this. Because they're going to be the same answer, add 5, divide by 2, and you have your answer. Okay, again, we have something like this. X cubed plus